Welcome. Today we are here with Christina, who is a healer, a singer, and musician, and just beautiful woman to share her wisdom. Welcome, Christina.
Hello, Berta. So good to see you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. And we've known each other for a few years through working the same healing method, neo emotional releases. And I have just been so inspired by your voice, what this brings to the work. And I would love for you to share who you are and how voice and singing and healing operate in your world.
I love that question. That is always so interesting as well to kind of feel into where to start because when I view or when I look onto my life, I'm like seeing how voice and also healing work kind of weaved its way through from the beginning on basically. So maybe to say you already mentioned emotional release. So I'm
Mhm.
working a lot with the voice in the sense of emotional expression and also how to regulate the nervous system through the voice. So both emotional expression, regulating the nervous system, cleansing the aura by using the voice. And then I'm also working with music itself. So I'm a musician, I'm creating art, I'm hosting singing circles. And that's basically how music is weaving into my professional life since many, many years. But in my personal life, and that's something I really love to share because that's really where the seed lies of what I'm doing, is like since I was very little, I always played music. I always sang. It came really natural to me. I never had vocal lessons or anything. I was always I loved to sing. Like I was always singing, dancing, expressing through music. And when I was 14, I learned how to play the guitar. So I taught it myself. And that really gave me the space to actually put what I was experiencing into song. And that was, I would say, the beginning and the changing point that really led me to where I am now and what I'm doing and what I'm bringing into the world is that in my early years of living, I already had the experience of how powerful music is and the voice is to express emotions, but also to alchemize the experience, to bring form and expression to something that you're not able to express through words or in your household where you're growing up around your parents or friends. And it really gave me the opportunity to find a channel for expression for what was going on in my world, which was not always rainbows and butterflies, obviously. And that's how I found my channel. And I knew from a very young age that this is something the world should know about. And this is how it all came into life very early. I kind of knew when I was 14, I want to become a music therapist, and I became one.
Oh, it's your life path unfolding. And I love this how you just name music and sound as this vehicle for healing. Because I do feel culturally we've gotten a little bit bogged down around, you know, all of these heavy tools and overwhelming sort of logic and maybe just really challenging concepts. And I feel when you bring voice and music and sound and art and creativity into this healing process, there's so much more potential here. So I love that. And feeling like also everyone has a voice, you know,
Yes.
it's the inner instrument, really.
Wow, yes, absolutely. Wow, I just had goosebumps as you were sharing this because um first of all, I'm always sharing as well when I'm teaching about the voice, because I'm also weaving that in with trainings and everything where I'm teaching about the power of the voice and music. And um, it's like I envision us to be guitars, just with very interesting bodies. Like when you have a guitar, I have two on my couch here. When you see a guitar, it's like, it's this body, of course, it needs the body to actually have the room for resonance and for sound. And then you see the strings. And that is exactly what it is. This is how we are designed. We have strings in our bodies that can vibrate. And we are meant to be an instrument. This is how we are designed, aside from the fact that we are really made out of energy, as everything that is surrounding us, everything holds a certain frequency. So we are music, we are sound. This is how we are naturally designed by nature, by spirit. And by losing this connection, we're not only losing the connection as a society to a part that would be nice, but we are losing the connection of a part that is at the very core of our existence. That is initially what's happening. And so I find that what you were saying of how society and humans are losing touch of art a little bit and of their inner music, their inner song, their inner singer, it's huge and it's very important that we find a shift.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so beautiful to think of the body as an instrument and this container for our own frequency and resonance. And especially considering a lot of what we share through the Birthing Soul app, which is using sound. We really do teach this, but also how much the voice is connected to the pelvis and the womb and how it develops in utero. It's like a little sandwich where they develop together, the vocal cords and the uterus, and then they kind of divide down the midline. And just this resonance between these parts of our bodies, and especially in the time of giving birth, being pregnant, nurturing your baby, the voice is so essential. And there's so many layers to this that we could get into. But I really want to hear a little bit more from you around, our frequency and resonance moving through the body, and how does that impact the nervous system? How do you see it shift the body, the soul? What's happening here?
Yes, beautiful question. So there are many layers, as you said, as well, to kind of show and shine a light on this topic. So when I come from a nervous system perspective, we want to look at the vagus nerve in the first place. The vagus nerve runs through here and it runs through our body and like a lot of organs that we were having, especially also the womb, our uterus, and the nervous system of the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is a really important part of the parasympathetic nervous system state that we're having. So parasympathetic state is what we are connecting with when we're moving into rest and digest. And as I said, like the vagus nerve is like moving through here. And this is exactly also where our vocal cords are running. And if we look at how the vagus nerve is also made, we look at how the fibers of the vagus nerve are mostly working from the body to the brain. We probably also heard of that. It was also part in our emotional release training, and I found that was a huge changing point when I understood that. Because when we understand that the fibers are mainly working 80% from the body to the brain and 20% from the brain to the body, we also understand that it's way more efficient and so much easier and quicker to work from the body to the brain. What does that mean? It means that when we, for example, do breath work, but especially humming, singing, anything that stimulates our vocal cords and therefore the vagus nerve is super, super, super effective when it comes to regulating our nervous system and moving from sympathetic overload, stress mode into rest and digest. And that is like one of the main things that I always mention when it comes to why is the voice so important in healing? Why is it powerful to use it in a daily practice? That is main point when it comes to the nervous system. And when I move a little bit further, like you said, the soul, I am moving again into the space of that we are made out of energy. We are like neuroscience and everything and quantum physics, like you can have your look into it. It's so amazing. And when we look at those signs, we really see how when we take away no, no, I go from the other way. When we view the human and we see that mainly it's created out of space. So when you take away the space, you need to search for us, like you cannot even grasp us because we are actually made of the energy that moves these little parts, cells, and everything. We are made out of this. And so when we view it from that side, we come back to the realization that we're actually made out of sound. We are made out of frequency. And when we are made out of frequency, it also means that we can actually access through our voice frequencies, tones that resonate with our being, that resonate with our field, with our aura, and that we are also able to tune in and to tune our field with our voice. And that is something that I'm looking at when I'm looking at the energetic side, not only like regulating, yes, all of that super, super important for us being human, but us being soul. For me, the voice is the bridge that is actually creating this. It is actually the bridge between being human, being in a human body, having physical vocal cords, and the ethereal worlds, the sound, the frequency. And we are able to access this bridge and the power that lies within it.
Oh, I just full body chills hearing it.
Yeah.
It's just so powerful and beautiful, this bridge you're naming, like that we really and the vocal cords sitting on top of the heart where really you're bridging out your soul truth, whether you're singing or humming or speaking, and just what a powerful reclamation this is, especially like when women have been so silenced or our emotions have been so silenced.
Yes.
And really, like in the work we both offer in the world, is like bringing sound through the emotional experience. And you were saying earlier, you know, expressing a truth that words may not be able to fully capture. Because we've like you're saying that the body's 80%, mind's 20%. So if we focus on this direction of bringing that up and out, I just feel that alchemy is so possible.
Yes, yes, absolutely. My God, I love that you mentioned that it sits right on top of the heart because that's what I'm really, really truly feeling when I'm tuning into music and sound and harmony. Like it comes from the heart. And that's why you can also tell when something is not coming from the heart, when someone is not speaking in resonance. So when someone is not speaking for what is really true right now, and they're not coming from their body, but they're more coming from the mind, you can hear it in the voice. And something that I was also thinking about as you were sharing is that we like when we look at it in the chakra perspective, the voice is the Vishuddha chakra, and Vishuddha actually means purification. It is our purification channel. And I really love to view this, especially when we're looking into neo-emotional release of like we're working with the body and we're working with the breath. But if you're clenching your jaw and you're not letting it out and your client is like clenched up and they're actually holding it in, it doesn't have a way to actually find its pure expression where it belongs. It belongs like some emotions, especially, for example, anger, really like it is an outwarded emotion that wants to find its purest expression in the voice. And there, like, and with all other emotions, actually, is very, very important that we open this pathway of purification.
Mm. So powerful. I've never heard that
Yeah.
before. I love that purification and the process of just, yeah, getting it out when so many of us, I would venture to say most people in our society are just emotionally repressed. And um, I'm curious if you would share a little bit about what do you see in terms of wounds around the voice, the throat, what comes up around that?
Yes, it's huge. It's huge. Like the main aspect that I would mention straight away is shame.
Mm.
When we look at our voice, there are so many shame layers that society and humans, us as humans, are holding because we've been taught of how something needs to sound. For example, okay, if you sing, it has to sound beautiful. And that is like connected to that you kind of find the tones that seem to be right and harmonious. And so there was like immediately the standard of this is singing. And if you do not do it like this, you're not a singer. And then even further back into childhood and the beliefs that were nurtured in childhood. So often as parents, there's still this kind of shaming around the voice of like, no, now you're too loud. Or no, please talk more in school. So sometimes it's also like, you're too silent, talk more. Don't sing, like, or like there's always like this. I think everyone experienced it slightly different. But yeah, like over the years of our lives, we kind of gather evidence for that this is not a good and a safe thing to do, to express through the voice, because we kind of built up this, yeah, this feeling it has to sound a certain way to be recognized and appreciated and just respected and accepted by society. And it breaks my heart because I have people coming to me, they even say, Chrissy, I feel so ashamed of my voice. I'm not even sounding or singing when I'm alone. Yeah. And that hits home. It is, as I mentioned, a part of your existence. It is your birthright that you came to Earth with. And also for women, but also for any kind of human, actually, as well. When you live in a privileged space in the world and you have more privilege to use your voice, it actually becomes, that is my opinion, a part of a duty that we have to move back into the liberation of a gift that has been given to us, and we have the privilege to actually use it in a free way. And that's what I'm always coming back to. So I'm like seeing us really in this space of like, please, 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 let's work with the shame around the voice, alchemize the shame, and actually move back into the power of it.
I love this. And really, you talking about the duty to liberate,
Yeah.
to make yourself be heard in the space of privilege. I feel that's so in alignment with what this work is, which is a liberation practice, liberation for all. And how can we really do that by staying silent? I just don't think that's possible,
Yeah.
and what you're naming around shame, I just resonates so deeply because I feel shame is quite a challenging emotion to identify and work with. It tends to sit sort of underneath layers of other emotions and other conditioning, right? Kind of getting blocked down lower in the body. But when you can liberate some anger, all of a sudden you recognize the shame is underneath. Or same with having profound expressions of sadness or grief or rage, and then underneath that kind of sits that shame layer, that recognition of like, I haven't been able to express, and what are my reasons why? And I think when we can alchemize shame, there is just so much potential, because you kind of have to get into that lower level. And in the space of mothers and giving birth and all of these things, I feel so many women are conditioned from the start of their pregnancy journey to just keep quiet, accept the systems as they are, not set their boundaries, not ask for more,
Mm,
Like
mm.
like disconnection from desire is a huge one, because is it not valid for women to want more out of birth, out of motherhood, out of pregnancy? And, so there's also that flip side too of like liberating the beautiful aspects of life through the voice, and yeah,
Yes,
so much
yes.
there with this.
Wow. Oh my God. I really love to talk with you about this, Britta, because it's like it's such a huge topic. And what you were just saying is like this like being too muchness, right? Like it's such a big thing in the space of being human, but also in the space of being a woman, like especially like the furious little that has been like, like cut off from society basically. No, like let's be the nice girl. Oh, don't ask for too much, especially also when it comes to pregnancy, birth, and there are already so many conditions in the medical field around that. And with that, it's so interesting because what I want to speak on for a minute is resonance. Resonance is not only a thing in music, but it is a thing in life because we are made out of frequency. We are technically a musical art piece. And so when we view energy in the lens of resonance, also this thing with too muchness, it's like we got conditioned to take ourselves back, to not speak our truth, to stay silent and to be like, okay, I don't agree, but I take a step back. But what happens is that the field moves into dissonance in that moment when you do so. In that moment when you do not speak your truth or you're not using your voice fully right now, I'm speaking with my whole body because I'm very excited and this feels true to me. But I could also speak like this and it would not make any, like the field throws, like gets out of resonance, falls out of resonance when we are not using our voice and when we are not speaking our truth. And I love to look at this too muchness piece from that lens because I used to be as well a woman with that belief of like, oh no, don't be too much. Now you're asking for too much, like you're too loud and whatever. Um, and then I came across this beautiful realization of that my fear of being too much is actually what makes me too much for the room because the room cannot resonate with me. When I am like, okay, I'm making myself smaller and I'm like not talking too loud and everything, it takes up space actually. And the room doesn't know how to connect with you if you're not in resonance with yourself. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, I cannot be too much for the room when I'm in resonance with myself. Because in that moment, the room and the people around me or the doctors you're talking to, they can really see you only when you step into your truth and you're speaking it. That is the only way of connection. And that has helped me personally big time when it came to the fear of working with this. I might be too much for the world with my voice and with my truth.
Wow. These words are like healing balm for me. I am just in awe. I'm left breathless and wordless. So only me singing a song right now could
Yeah.
really, it's so powerful to think of what you can reclaim by being in resonance with yourself, by being in your truth, and then how that creates the conditions for other people to receive you in your truth, in your authenticity. And then for the field to give you those opportunities for connection and the right things at the right time, it just opens up this potential for synchronicity and all the while not really sacrificing the part of you, the deepest part of you. I mean, there's nothing less to say. You said it all. That was absolutely beautiful. I love this. I love this.
Yes.
Resonance.
Resonance. Mm.
Just so beautiful.
So beautiful. And I found it really interesting as well as you were talking about shame. I really loved how you mentioned, and I actually haven't viewed it like that before, that it lies underneath certain emotions. I always see it as something that lies like on top of it. So we actually cannot access, like a cover emotion, basically. So it lies on top. So we cannot access this, for example, like anger or grief, because something within us got conditioned that it's not safe to feel and express grief, anger, whatever it is. But it is so true. It's like, it's laying on top, but often it also lies underneath as well. It's like a sandwich as well, because when we look at emotions, we have like different layers of emotions, right? So there might be shame, and then there underneath that we access grief, and then underneath that it's like, no, why did I grieve now? Like they saw my tears. I expressed what I was deeply feeling and I was so vulnerable. No, like, and then the shame like layer comes back in. And this is actually exactly what we're working when we're working with the voice as well. It's like it might like really start so tender, it might or it starts like with a big resistance of like, now I'm about to hum a tone, or how stupid is that, like this is like often a voice that like gets triggered in practices and everything, and I'm inviting that in always very actively. I'm like, bring in whatever is alive within you. So when you're going into a vocal practice and you're working with your voice maybe for the first time, and you're meeting this shame boundary or this like cringiness or whatever, like, oh, this is weird, like, why should I do this? This feels off. Meet it, invite it in, because that's when you are touching this shame. And then through the practice and by allowing it to be there, emotional release, by allowing it to be there and becoming curious about it, we can actually alchemize it in the process of sounding, in the process of voice. Yeah.
Yes, it's so beautiful, and I love thinking about this kind of sandwich of shame.
Yeah.
Because if we don't see it and understand it, how can we move it and change it, And I just think it's so true that you have to kind of meet this resistance part.
Um,
It may be uncomfortable, but we really build that capacity, and we do this a lot with the birthing soul guided exercises and all of these things is building that capacity to be with the discomfort, because
mhm.
discomfort is where the change place is, and discomfort is where the alchemy can begin of our emotions, and so that we can liberate old symptoms and old pain and old stories and walk the path we desire. And
Yes.
I think in birth and in pregnancy, we work with the voice a lot in the birth preparation and really learning how to, because if you've ever seen birth videos or like natural unmedicated birth, oftentimes the tones that are coming out very naturally, and this was happened in my birth, the sounds that came out of me I had no idea I could make. Just these deep, like, low tones that, especially as women in our society, we are not told we can make sounds like that. And we
Mm,
tend to adapt our voices, not even within our awareness, to be higher pitched, to be more pleasing and pretty. And there's, a lot to that. And we really guide women to practice making those low tones,
mm,
which connects you to your root, to the exit point of your baby, and we need that. And I just find it's just so beautiful, like, that's so feminine, but how have we not embraced that as feminine? But it's part of the birth giving process, And so that's really one way we bring this through to moms is preparing them and building that capacity to take up space with your sound, no matter where you're giving birth or who's around you. And it is a reclamation of power. It's a huge,
yeah.
I think one of the biggest reclamations you can have.
Yes. Wow. It's so beautiful that you're bringing this in, because that's so vital. It is so vital. really like it will help the whole physical process of giving birth and pregnancy. It's like you said, it's the whole liberation process that comes with that. In that moment that you've, as you shared so beautifully, unlock these tones that you were never like you didn't even imagine that you were able to sound in that way. That was a portal you went through. It's like it's something no one can take off you. It is a liberation that stays. It doesn't even doesn't even mean that you have to go any kind of low again in your voice, but in that moment that it happens so naturally through you, that was like the ultimate like portal that you were walking through, and energetically there had to be like a huge shift, because when we're accessing those tones, it's a reclamation, it's an initiation, and it's a reclamation of power, as you were speaking about as well, and liberation, really truly. And that's so like so powerful, right? Because the shame falls away. Like in that moment when the brain switches off, because you are just a nature force in that moment. Nothing matters because the body takes over. Afterwards, sandwich, maybe beforehand, you feel the resistance and you feel the shame. And afterwards, you might also feel the shame and the resistance because it was not, you were not conditioned that it's safe to be a nature force that you actually are. But in that very moment, shame doesn't exist. And that is just like such a liberating momentum to move into. And it's beautiful that you actually, yeah, like bringing this into the preparation for the birth process as well, because that is already working with that power. If we sound low, I always describe it and I name it as we're bringing the voice into the body. This is actually what we're doing. We're bringing the voice into the body. And often when I hear women in the trainings and in my one-on-ones, when they're like sounding, but they're sounding from here, I always put one hand on the womb and I'm like, sound from here. Come in with your breath, tune into your womb, into your pelvic floor, tune in there and go with the deepest sounds you could possibly make. And sometimes that's not even sometimes it's a, you know,
Sure.
and that's why, like, when we're working with those low sounds, we're immediately working with A, the nature force that we are as women, and B, shame. Goes hand in hand.
I know the sounds that we can make are so broad. And now, like, if I'm having a symptom, I'll just like bring my hand there and I'll just see what sound it wants to make. And like, I've gotten to this point of comfortability in expressing this no matter who's listening. I mean, even my kids sometimes are like, why are you making that sound? Sometimes for me, it's just very like, uh,
Mhm.
uh, okay. It's telling me I'm having low data for recording. Uh-oh. Hold on. I'm gonna edit this
Interest
part out, but,
Yeah,
I just notification. I just wanna make sure it's gonna save.
yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna
Mhm.
delete, like
Mm.
oh, how could I what okay, hold on. Oh, no. I'm gonna go down, and then we'll kind of wrap up here because I wanna make sure this conversation
Is
went
safe.
well. It's been so beautiful. Okay.
Ah, it's so beautiful to chat with you, but I could do this forever. It's so great.
Okay, so oh crap, it keeps telling me this. Device storage is running low. You should stop recording and free up device data. Goodness. So let me just try to do that a little bit. Sorry I
No,
don't know
that's
what I
okay.
can like delete.
It's not Mercury retrograde anymore. But I had so many shitty things as well with technical stuff at the moment.
Oh, well, it's still in the shadow, which I feel like okay, I just don't know how to delete stuff like quickly while I'm you know,
Mhm,
I have obviously way too much stuff on here, but it's all like videos
mhm,
of kids that I don't want to just delete.
mhm.
Okay, let's see if we can record the kind of closing part here and then it keeps coming up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pause the recording.
Yes.
Oh, these beautiful messages are just so powerful. And I would love to hear from you. What things can we do just day to day, small things that cultivate a connection to the voice through pregnancy, postpartum, or just in day to day life?
Yes, beautiful. So, first thing, I think that is very important because we often think we do not have time. And especially as mothers, praise all the mothers, like in pregnancy, there's so much to prepare for, and you're already having children. It's like, amen. So, like, sometimes there's not much of a time. So, first thing that I always say is make it simple. The simplest acts that we can bring into our everyday life might have the biggest effect on your nervous system because you will actually continue to bring it in because it is simple and adaptable. So, what I love to do as this kind of simple practice is anytime that you can actually make a sound, make a sound. Simple as that. And the most beautiful thing is what we are naturally doing as well. After a big day, we sit down and we sigh out, right? Or something was a little bit agitating or heavy, and we're like, ah, and you can actually also make this an intentional practice that you come home or you sit back into your car after grocery shopping or whatever, and you just take 3 big breaths and sigh it out. Just that simple little thing is already regulating your nervous system by stimulating your vagus nerve. And you can also sound in any kind of way or sign while you're doing whatever you're doing. That is also very important. You can really like do your dishes, and while you're doing your dishes, you just hum or you actually sing out loud if you feel comfortable with doing so, or you just start sounding, sighing, whatever it is. So anywhere where you feel like, oh yeah, I have space free to just breathe, that's enough. You just need breath. That's all you need. And you can do and keep on going with whatever you're doing and bring in the voice. That is something I generally like give the impulse to do because that will build a natural awareness around your voice as well. And this natural trust that you're nurturing there. And this natural connection that you're actually helping to grow. And apart from that, if you want to make it a little bit more of a bigger practice, also can be 5 minutes, doesn't have to be too long. You were already mentioned it. Actually, you were saying, oh, when I'm feeling something in my body, I'm tuning into it and I'm sounding from that space. And that is something you can either do when you're feeling something is happening in your body. For example, you're having cramps or your legs feel heavy, whatever it is. But you can also do it if there's nothing happening. So a little bit of a bigger practice that we can do is like tuning into our bodies and sensing what do I feel in my body, first of all? So a little bit of a somatic tracking. And when you're feeling, for example, my shoulders are tight, and then you can make it a practice to move to this area and sound from there. So asking yourself within, if this sensation in my body could make a sound, how would it sound like? And then you can really play around with your voice. So maybe you try, okay, doesn't resonate. So like what I always love to teach is like this piece of resonance. Looking what comes out, but then also looking, does that really resonate with my body? Do I really feel that in my shoulders, for example, or my neck? And you can play around with high notes, deep notes. So when we're usually working with the lower part of the body, anything deep sounding is more helpful because you will feel like it goes deeper into the lower parts of the body. But really play around with your voice and resonance here. And that is also super, super powerful when it comes to alchemizing emotions that are showing up through sensations in the body, alchemizing stress moments, and also really shaping and nurturing this connection between your body and your voice and emotional expression as well. These are definitely two practices that I love to do, but like even you can also bring in some movements, for example. Like if you feel like you also want to move your body, you do not have to do it seated. You can also come into movement, come into dance, come into stretches, for example. Also, when you're doing your yoga practice or whatever you're doing, then really try to breathe into the poses or breathe into the movements that you're doing and bring in sound. How does it sound if I do like this? You know, it might sound like ah, but when I go down, it sounds different. So that is really rewiring this connection that we have with our voice. And it also helps to work with shame.
Mm.
And I think that's the last little bit. There are so many more practices you could do actually. And I'm sure you will also provide like awesome resources. But when you are meeting this point of resistance, when you're meeting this point of shame, or like, what if my husband hears me, or what if my kids hear me, or whatever, you can like really cover your face with your hands, use a pillow, do it in silence, maybe even that you're just forming it and you're just feeling it in your body, but you're not making a sound. And then you slowly tiptoeing around that until you move into that space. Now it
Mm.
feels safer to make a little bit of a sound. And then also, what is powerful in that is to allow the shame to be there and sound from that shame, sound from that space of like, and move with that in that way and alchemize it in that way.
Beautiful. I love these practices. I think that they're can be so simple, but as you're naming, you really can come up against your shame. And so having a way to work through that, step toward it, and approach this in a way that maintains safety in the body and the nervous system as you kind of explore this opening and that liberation pathway, the purification pathway of the voice. So thank you
Yes.
so much for all of your wisdom you shared, Christina. I just feel so deeply nourished by all of this and just so grateful for how you share this wisdom.
Thank you, Britta. Thank you for having me and creating such beautiful portal and space for so many women. And it is already so, so potent and powerful. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.